There comes a moment in life when you realize that growth is not only about what you add, but about what you remove. Most people are obsessed with gaining more knowledge, more money, more recognition, more validation. But true transformation begins in silence. It begins when you look at your life with ruthless honesty and ask yourself, what is weakening my spirit? What is stealing my focus? What is quietly destroying my inner peace? If you want strength, clarity, discipline, and inner power, you must learn the art of elimination. Not loudly, not with drama, but quietly, with awareness, with self-control, with courage. The first thing you must quietly eliminate from your life is the constant need for approval. This desire sits deep within the human mind. It whispers that you must be liked, that you must be accepted, that you must fit in. It convinces you that your worth depends on applause, on compliments, on agreement. But the moment your happiness depends on the validation of others, you hand over your power. Understand this clearly. When you seek approval, you begin to shape your behavior according to the expectations of the crowd. You speak differently, you act differently, you suppress your truth, you trade authenticity for acceptance. And slowly, without realizing it, you become a stranger to yourself. Approval is a subtle addiction. It feels harmless. A compliment gives you a small rush. A like on a post gives you a small boost. Someone praising your decision makes you feel secure. But what happens when the praise stops? What happens when criticism comes? If your foundation is built on external validation, every negative opinion shakes you. Every disagreement feels like a threat. Your emotional state becomes unstable because it depends on something you cannot control. A disciplined mind does not beg for approval. It acts according to principles, not popularity. It makes decisions based on values, not applause. This is inner strength. This is self-mastery. Many people live their entire lives trapped in this invisible cage. They choose careers to impress their families. They stay in relationships to avoid judgment. They silence their dreams because others might not understand. They wear masks so often that they forget their real face. And in the process, their spirit becomes weak. If you constantly look outside for confirmation, you will never develop trust inside. Self-trust is built when you make decisions aligned with your conscience, even when no one claps. Especially when no one claps, there will always be opinions. Some will admire you, some will doubt you, some will misunderstand you completely. You cannot control this. Trying to control how everyone perceives you is like trying to control the wind. It drains your energy and leaves you frustrated. When you eliminate the need for approval, something powerful happens. You become calm. You become focused. You stop reacting emotionally to every comment. You stop over-explaining yourself. You stop seeking reassurance for every step you take. Your actions become deliberate. Your words become precise. Your presence becomes strong. This does not mean you become arrogant or indifferent. It means you become grounded. You listen to feedback with awareness, but you do not depend on it for identity. You accept constructive criticism, but you do not collapse under judgment. You respect others, but you do not surrender your direction. Silence plays an important role here. When you move in silence, you do not constantly announce your plans for validation. You work quietly. You improve quietly. You grow quietly. And this quiet growth builds unshakable confidence. Ask yourself honestly, how many of your decisions are truly yours? How many are influenced by fear of rejection, fear of being disliked, fear of standing alone? Courage is not loud. It is the ability to stand firm in your truth even when you stand alone. When you remove the craving for approval, you remove a heavy burden from your shoulders. You free your mind from unnecessary noise. You free your heart from constant comparison. You free your spirit from the need to perform. And when you no longer perform for the world, you begin to live for your purpose. Eliminate the need for approval, and you will finally begin to walk your path with clarity and inner power. The second thing you must quietly eliminate from your life is negative self-talk. This is one of the most dangerous enemies because it does not come from outside. It comes from within. It speaks in your own voice. It sounds familiar. It sounds convincing. And if you are not aware, you begin to believe it. Every day, the mind is in conversation. From the moment you wake up until the moment you sleep, there is a constant stream of thoughts. Some of them strengthen you. Many of them weaken you. The problem is not that negative thoughts appear. The problem is when you accept them without discipline, when you repeatedly tell yourself that you are not capable, that you are behind, that you are not talented enough. You slowly condition your mind to act in alignment with those words. The mind follows the dominant narrative. If the narrative is weakness, your actions become hesitant. If the narrative is doubt, your decisions become fearful. Understand this clearly. The way you speak to yourself shapes your identity. If you constantly criticize yourself harshly, you create inner tension. If you constantly focus on your failures, you magnify them. If you replay mistakes again and again, you trap yourself in the past. Negative self-talk often hides behind perfectionism. You say, I should be better by now. I should not make mistakes. I should be further ahead. But this constant pressure does not create growth. It creates anxiety. Growth requires awareness, not self-punishment. A disciplined mind observes thoughts without becoming them. When a thought appears that says you are not good enough, you do not immediately accept it as truth. You pause. You breathe. You examine it. You ask yourself, is this thought helping me grow, or is it weakening my spirit? Most people allow their inner critic to dominate their inner teacher. The inner critic shouts. The inner teacher speaks calmly. The critic focuses on what is wrong. The teacher focuses on what can be improved. If you want clarity and inner power, you must strengthen the voice of the teacher. Eliminating negative self-talk does not mean pretending everything is perfect. It means replacing destructive language with constructive awareness. Instead of saying, I always fail, you say, I am learning. Instead of saying, I am not strong enough, you say, I am building strength.
The words may seem small, but their impact is powerful.
Your nervous system listens to your thoughts. Your body reacts to your internal dialogue. When you constantly tell yourself that you are overwhelmed, your body feels tension. When you constantly predict failure, your energy drops. But when you speak to yourself with calm discipline, your body responds with stability. Silence again becomes important. In silence, you become aware of the patterns of your mind. You notice how often you doubt yourself. You notice how often you compare yourself. You notice how quickly you judge your own efforts. Awareness is the first step toward mastery. You must train your mind like you train your body. If you repeat negative phrases for years, do not expect them to disappear overnight. Discipline requires repetition. Each time a destructive thought appears, you gently redirect it, not with anger, not with frustration, but with firm control. Remember that mistakes are part of growth. Failure is part of refinement. No strong character was built without difficulty. When you fail, the correct response is not self-condemnation. The correct response is reflection and adjustment. The strongest individuals are not those who never doubt. They are those who refuse to let doubt control their actions. They acknowledge fear, but they move forward anyway. They acknowledge imperfection, but they continue to improve. Your mind can be your greatest ally or your greatest obstacle. The choice depends on the words you repeat daily. If you want discipline, you must discipline your thoughts. If you want confidence, you must speak to yourself with respect. If you want growth, you must replace criticism with conscious correction. Eliminate negative self-talk, and you will strengthen the foundation of your inner world. The third thing you must quietly eliminate from your life is toxic environments. Many people underestimate the power of environment. They believe they are strong enough to remain unaffected by negativity, by gossip, by chaos, by constant complaining. But understand this clearly. No matter how disciplined you are, your surroundings influence your energy. Energy is contagious. If you spend hours in a space filled with blame, excuses, and criticism, your mind absorbs that frequency. First, you may resist it. You may tell yourself that you are different. But slowly, the atmosphere begins to shape your thinking. You start to doubt more. You start to complain more. You start to lower your standards without even noticing. A toxic environment is not only a physical place. It can be a group of people. It can be digital spaces. It can be conversations that constantly revolve around negativity. It can even be a routine that drains your spirit every single day. If you want clarity and strength, you must become selective about what you allow into your space. Many people remain in unhealthy environments because they fear loneliness. They tolerate disrespect because they do not want to stand alone. They accept constant drama because they think it is normal, but what you tolerate becomes your standard. If you tolerate chaos, chaos becomes your reality. Protecting your environment is an act of discipline, not selfishness. When you choose distance from negativity, you are not judging others. You are guarding your focus. You are protecting your peace. You are strengthening your foundation. Observe how you feel after spending time in certain places or with certain individuals. Do you feel energized or drained? Do you feel inspired or discouraged? Do you feel calm or agitated? Your body often gives you signals before your mind fully understands. Learn to listen. A strong mind requires a supportive environment. This does not mean everything must be perfect. Challenges will always exist. Difficult conversations will always arise. But there is a difference between temporary difficulty and constant toxicity. Temporary difficulty builds character. Constant toxicity destroys it. Silence again becomes powerful here. When you step back from noisy negative spaces, you create room for awareness. In that space, your thoughts become clearer. Your goals become sharper. Your discipline becomes stronger. You are no longer distracted by unnecessary drama. Sometimes eliminating a toxic environment requires courage. It may mean setting boundaries. It may mean saying no. It may mean walking away from familiar faces. This is not easy. The mind resists change. The ego fears rejection. But growth often requires separation from what weakens you. You cannot expect to grow in a place that constantly pulls you down. If you plant a seed in poor soil, it struggles to grow. The same is true for your potential. If your daily environment feeds doubt, laziness, and negativity, your progress will slow down. Choose environments that challenge you to improve. Choose conversations that expand your thinking. Choose relationships built on respect and honesty. Choose spaces that encourage discipline and focus. These choices may reduce your social circle, but they will increase your inner strength. Also examine your digital environment. Endless scrolling, constant comparison, and exposure to negativity can quietly drain your motivation. Be intentional about what you consume. Your attention is valuable. Do not waste it on content that weakens your mind. Remember, you do not need to announce your departure from toxic spaces. You do not need to create conflict. You simply reduce your presence. You limit your exposure. You redirect your time and energy toward growth. When your environment supports your values, discipline becomes easier. Focus becomes sharper. Peace becomes natural. And your progress accelerates without unnecessary resistance. Eliminate toxic environments and you protect the foundation of your inner strength. The fourth thing you must quietly eliminate from your life is procrastination disguised as comfort. This is one of the most deceptive obstacles on the path of growth. It does not look dangerous. It feels safe. It feels harmless. You tell yourself you will start tomorrow. You tell yourself you need the right mood, the right timing, the right motivation. But tomorrow becomes next week becomes next month, and slowly your potential begins to fade. Comfort is seductive. It whispers that you deserve rest before effort. It convinces you that small delays do not matter. It tells you that there is always more time, but discipline understands something different. Discipline understands that time is limited. Discipline understands that every delay weakens momentum. Procrastination is rarely about laziness. It is often about avoidance. You avoid discomfort. You avoid uncertainty. You avoid the possibility of failure. Starting. Something meaningful requires courage because it exposes you to judgment, to mistakes, to imperfection. So the mind chooses comfort instead. It chooses distraction. It chooses temporary pleasure. But comfort has a hidden cost. In the short term, it feels relaxing. In the long term, it creates regret. Each time you delay an important task, you send a message to yourself that your goals are not urgent, that your growth is optional, that your discipline is negotiable. And this message slowly weakens your character. Understand this clearly. Growth requires friction. Strength is built through resistance. If you always choose the easy path, you will never discover your true capacity. The mind becomes strong when it learns to act despite discomfort. Notice how procrastination often appears in small decisions. You delay waking up early. You postpone a difficult conversation. You avoid starting a challenging project. These small delays accumulate. They form a pattern, and patterns shape identity. A disciplined person does not wait for motivation. Motivation is unstable. It rises and falls with emotions. Discipline acts regardless of feelings. It says, this must be done, so I will do it. Even if I do not feel ready. Even if it is uncomfortable. Even if it requires effort. When you constantly choose comfort over growth, you remain stagnant. You watch others move forward while you stay in the same place. This creates frustration. Frustration turns into self-doubt. Self-doubt turns into negative self-talk. And the cycle continues. Breaking this cycle requires awareness. The next time you feel the urge to delay something important, pause. Ask yourself honestly, am I avoiding discomfort? Am I protecting my ego? Am I choosing temporary ease over long-term strength? Then take one small step, not a giant leap, just one deliberate action. Start the task, make the call, write the first page, open the book. Action reduces fear. Movement builds momentum. Once you begin, resistance weakens. Silence plays a role here as well. When you stop announcing your plans and simply execute them quietly, you remove external pressure. You focus on the process, not the performance. You build consistency in private, and private consistency creates public strength. Remember that comfort is not the enemy when used wisely. Rest is necessary. Recovery is important. But there is a difference between conscious rest and unconscious avoidance. Conscious rest restores energy after effort. Avoidance drains energy without progress. Every time you overcome procrastination, you strengthen your will. You prove to yourself that you are capable of action. You build self-trust. And self-trust is the foundation of confidence. Your life will not change because you think about changing it. It changes when you act repeatedly, especially when it feels uncomfortable. Discipline grows when you choose effort over ease. Eliminate procrastination disguised as comfort, and you begin to transform intention into action. The fifth thing you must quietly eliminate from your life is comparison. Comparison appears innocent at first. It seems like a way to measure progress. It seems like a way to evaluate where you stand. But if you are not careful, it becomes a silent thief. It steals your joy. It steals your focus. It steals your peace. In the modern world, comparison is constant. You see the success of others. You see their achievements, their lifestyles, their recognition. You see the highlight of their journey, not the struggle behind it. And without awareness, your mind begins to measure your life against their visible moments. When you compare yourself to someone ahead of you, you feel inadequate. You feel behind. You feel as if you are not doing enough. When you compare yourself to someone behind you, you may feel superior. Both states are dangerous. One weakens your confidence. The other feeds your ego. Neither strengthens your character. Your path is unique. Your timing is unique. Your challenges are unique. The conditions that shaped you are not the same as those that shaped someone else. So why do you expect your progress to look identical? Comparison distracts you from your own growth. Instead of focusing on improving 1% each day, you become obsessed with someone else's speed. You stop appreciating your own effort because it does not look impressive enough in comparison. This mindset slowly erodes your discipline. Understand this clearly. The only meaningful comparison is between who you were yesterday and who you are today. Are you more disciplined? Are you more aware? Are you more focused? That is the measurement that builds strength. When you constantly look outward, your mind becomes restless. You chase external markers of success instead of internal alignment. You start making decisions not because they fit your purpose, but because they look impressive to others. This leads you away from authenticity. Comparison also destroys gratitude. Instead of appreciating what you have built, you focus on what you lack. Instead of recognizing your progress, you highlight your shortcomings. Gratitude creates stability. Comparison creates dissatisfaction. Silence helps you break this habit. When you reduce unnecessary exposure to other people's journeys, you regain clarity. You reconnect with your own goals. You remember why you started. You shift your attention from competing to improving. There will always be someone more advanced, more talented, more experienced. This is reality. But their existence does not reduce your value. Their success does not block your path. Life is not a race against others. It is a process of refining yourself. When you eliminate comparison, you free your energy. You stop wasting mental space analyzing others. You redirect that energy into action. You study your weaknesses calmly. You strengthen your skills deliberately. You build quietly. This does not mean you ignore inspiration. You can admire others, without measuring yourself against them. You can learn from their discipline without feeling threatened. Inspiration uplifts. Comparison diminishes. Be aware of the subtle moments when comparison enters your mind. When you see someone achieving something you desire, instead of thinking, I am behind, shift your thinking to, what can I learn? Instead of feeling envy, feel motivation. Instead of judging yourself harshly, refine your strategy. True confidence grows when you accept your journey fully. It grows when you respect your pace. It grows when you focus on progress, not perfection. If you constantly compare, you will never feel enough. If you focus inward, you will continuously improve. Eliminate comparison and you reclaim your focus and inner peace. The sixth thing you must quietly eliminate from your life is excuses.
Excuses are subtle.
They sound intelligent. They sound reasonable. They protect your ego from discomfort. But in reality, they weaken your discipline and delay your growth. An excuse is a story you tell yourself to justify inaction. It shifts responsibility away from you and places it on circumstances, on other people, on timing, on luck. It says, I cannot start because conditions are not perfect. It says, I would succeed if I had better opportunities. It says, I am this way because of my past. And while some of these statements may contain fragments of truth, they become chains when you use them to avoid responsibility. Responsibility is power. The moment you take full ownership of your actions, your habits, and your decisions, you reclaim control. When you blame external factors, you surrender that control. You become reactive instead of proactive. You wait instead of act. Excuses often arise when you face difficulty. A task feels challenging. A routine feels uncomfortable. A goal feels distant. Instead of pushing through resistance, the mind looks for an escape. It says, today is not the right day. It says, I am too tired. It says, I will begin when I feel more confident. But confidence is built through action, not waiting. Understand this clearly. Life will never present perfect conditions. There will always be obstacles. There will always be distractions. There will always be uncertainty. If you wait for everything to align, you will wait forever. Excuses protect your image in the short term but damage your character in the long term. Each time you justify a lack of effort, you reinforce the habit of avoidance. Each time you shift blame, you weaken your resilience. Over time, this pattern becomes your identity. Discipline requires honesty. You must look at yourself without denial. If you fail to prepare, admit it. If you wasted time, acknowledge it. If you lack consistency, accept it. This is not self-punishment. It is self-awareness. And awareness is the foundation of improvement. Many people fear responsibility because it feels heavy. They think that admitting fault makes them weak. In truth, it makes them strong. When you say, this is my responsibility, you step into maturity. You stop playing the victim. You stop waiting for rescue. There is a difference between understanding your circumstances and hiding behind them. Difficult backgrounds, limited resources, and unexpected challenges are real. But using them as permanent excuses keeps you stuck. You may not control every event in your life, but you control your response. That response shapes your future. Silence again becomes a powerful teacher. In quiet reflection, you begin to notice the excuses you repeat. You notice the patterns in your language. You hear how often you justify delay. And when you become aware of these patterns, you can interrupt them. Replace excuses with solutions. Instead of saying, I do not have enough time, ask, how can I manage my time better? Instead of saying, I am not talented enough, ask, how can I improve my skill? This shift in thinking moves you from helplessness to action. Every time you remove an excuse, you strengthen your discipline. Every time you take ownership, you build confidence. Responsibility does not make life easier, but it makes you stronger. The strongest individuals are not those who never face obstacles. They are those who refuse to hide behind them. They accept reality, then act with clarity. Eliminate excuses, and you unlock the true power of responsibility. The seventh thing you must quietly eliminate from your life is resentment. Resentment is heavy. It does not always appear loudly. Sometimes it sits silently in the heart. It replays old conversations. It reopens old wounds. It reminds you of what someone said, what someone did, what someone failed to do. And each time you replay it, you relive the pain. Understand this clearly. Resentment does not punish the other person. It punishes you. The person who hurt you may have moved on. They may not even think about the situation anymore, but you carry it. You carry the anger. You carry the disappointment. You carry the bitterness, and that weight drains your energy. When you hold resentment, your mind remains attached to the past. Growth requires forward movement, but resentment keeps you looking backward. It ties your present emotions to events that cannot be changed. This blocks clarity. It clouds judgment. It affects how you see new opportunities and new relationships. Many people justify resentment by calling it strength. They say, "I will never forget." They say, "I will never forgive." They believe that holding on to anger protects them from being hurt again. But in reality, it keeps the wound open. True strength is not in holding on to pain. It is in releasing it. Forgiveness does not mean approving of what happened. It does not mean ignoring injustice. It does not mean allowing disrespect to continue. Forgiveness means freeing yourself from emotional bondage. It means saying, "I refuse to let this experience control my inner state any longer." Resentment also feeds the ego. The ego enjoys being right. It enjoys replaying stories where you were wronged. It reinforces the identity of being a victim. But as long as you identify as a victim, you limit your power. Responsibility and discipline require you to move beyond that identity. Silence becomes essential here. When you sit quietly with your thoughts, you may notice how often certain memories return. You may notice the tension in your body when you think about specific people. Instead of pushing those feelings away, observe them, acknowledge them, understand them. Awareness weakens their grip. Holding resentment affects more than your emotions. It affects your relationships. It makes you defensive. It makes you suspicious. It makes you quick to react. When unresolved anger sits inside you, even small disagreements feel like threats. You respond not only to the present situation, but also to past pain. Letting go requires courage. It requires humility. It requires accepting that you cannot control what others do, but you can control how long you carry the impact. It requires choosing peace over pride. Ask yourself honestly, what is this resentment giving me? Is it strengthening my character? Is it improving my life? Or is it draining my energy and blocking my progress? When you release resentment, you create space. Space for clarity, space for calm, space for new experiences. Your mind becomes lighter, your heart becomes steady. You stop reacting from old wounds and start responding with awareness. This does not happen overnight. Deep pain takes time to process. But each time you choose understanding over anger, you weaken resentment. Each time you focus on your growth instead of past harm, you reclaim your power. Remember, your life is too valuable to be controlled by old pain. Your future deserves your full attention. Carrying resentment is like walking forward while dragging a heavy chain. You move, but with difficulty. Eliminate resentment, and you liberate your spirit to move freely toward growth. Growth is not only about building, achieving, and accumulating. True transformation begins when you have the courage to remove what weakens you: the need for approval, negative self-talk, toxic environments, procrastination disguised as comfort, comparison, excuses, resentment. Each of these silently drains your energy and clouds your clarity. When you eliminate them, you do not become empty. You become powerful. You create space for discipline, space for focus, space for inner peace. You begin to move with awareness instead of reaction. You begin to act with intention instead of impulse. You begin to live according to principles instead of pressure. Remember, this journey is quiet. You do not need to announce your transformation. You do not need validation for your growth. Walk your path with calm strength. Improve daily. Stay consistent. Protect your mind. Guard your energy. One day, the results will speak without you saying a word. I wish you clarity in your decisions, discipline in your actions, and strength in every challenge you face. May you walk forward with courage and inner power. Thank you for listening, and good luck on your journey. Growth is not only about building, achieving, and accumulating. True transformation begins when you have the courage to remove what weakens you: the need for approval, negative self-talk, toxic environments, procrastination disguised as comfort, comparison, excuses, resentment. Each of these silently drains your energy and clouds your clarity. When you eliminate them, you do not become empty. You become powerful. You create space for discipline, space for focus, space for inner peace. You begin to move with awareness instead of reaction. You begin to act with intention instead of impulse. You begin to live according to principles instead of pressure. Remember, this journey is quiet. You do not need to announce your transformation. You do not need validation for your growth. Walk your path with calm strength. Improve daily. Stay consistent. Protect your mind. Guard your energy. One day, the results will speak without you saying a word. I wish you clarity in your decisions, discipline in your actions, and strength in every challenge you face. May you walk forward with courage and inner power. Thank you for listening, and good luck on your journey.